hosting intel chiefs of several countries, including 3 from Five Eyes. India hosts Tulsi Gabbard, who has held discussions with India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. India and US discuss intelligence sharing and boosting security ties. NDTV exclusive with US Intel Chief Tulsi Gabbard, who tells NDTV that Donald Trump has made Ukraine-Russia peace a major deal. India and New Zealand resume FTA talks after a decade-long gap. Prime Minister Modi urges New Zealand to crack down on anti-India elements. Bangladesh interim chief Mohammad Yunus all set to visit China. He's likely to meet President Xi as early as next week. Chinese companies are also looking to invest majorly amidst growing ties between India and Bangladesh and China. Ukraine withdraws from Russia's Kursk region. Russian military makes major gains and controls parts of that region after Ukraine's withdrawal. US President Donald Trump to speak to Russia's Vladimir Putin. Trump and Putin will speak on Ukraine war and possibly ending it as early as Tuesday. Our top story on the show: amidst growing mistrust within the Five Eyes intelligence alliance, US Intel Chief Tulsi Gabbard held wide-ranging talks with her Indian counterpart, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, in New Delhi. The first high-level visit to India by a top official of the Donald Trump administration. Tulsi Gabbard also met Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and discussed key aspects of defence cooperation and intel sharing. Sources reveal that India also raised concerns over growing anti-India elements within the US and demanded strong action against Sikhs for Justice group. This comes after NSA also chaired a high-profile meeting of top global intelligence czars, including those from the Five Eyes network, focusing on boosting cooperation in confronting various security challenges, particularly related to terrorism and threats posed by emerging technologies. My colleague Nikunj Garg, Senior Managing Editor with the NDTV channel, joins me to decode India's intel diplomacy in greater detail. Nikunj, thanks so much for joining in. Let me start by asking you that for India, this is very significant, especially for our core concerns pertaining to cross-border terrorism.
Well, yes, absolutely, Gauri. We have to keep in mind that Sikhs for Justice is a forum that has now spread its tentacles not only in United States, but its original base of Canada and adjoining areas. And remember that people who have for long been saying that the Sikh Khalistani radical terrorism is all but dead, we have to keep in mind that SFJ, working in cahoots with the inter-services intelligence of Pakistan, has been actually actively responsible for carrying out physical violence, not only in the state of Punjab, but outside the borders of Punjab as well. Now, in the meeting today, apart from the fact that India raised the demand of a quid pro quo, remember SFJ is a banned organization under UAPA by the Ministry of Home Affairs, but on a quid pro quo basis, India said that SFJ must be banned, but that's not the highlight of the meeting. The highlight of the meeting is that India very unequivocally raised the issue of threat being faced by India's diplomatic personnel, including our ambassador there and our diplomatic complexes. Remember, in the last meeting when Prime Minister Narendra Modi traveled to United States, we have decided to raise the strength of our consulates in the United States, taking the total number up to 8. That increases the number of places, diplomatic complexes that India has, which will obviously be on the radar of SFJ. And also the issue of constant threat, which India said that, is actually halting, somehow stalling the diplomatic activities that these diplomatic personnel are supposed to take under the Geneva Convention. So apart from the ban, the issue of physical harm and physical threat that the SFJ has been issuing to our diplomatic personnel was very forcefully raised. India mints no words in saying that SFJ is just an offshoot of Inter-Services Intelligence Directorate of Pakistan operating out of Canadian and the American soil, and it must be seen as so. And unless we are able to distinguish state-sponsored terror from some kind of genuine protest movement, the real action against the state-sponsored terror or terror activities cannot be taken. So India, A, raise the issue of ban, B, most forcefully raise the issue of physical threat on our diplomats operating out of American and the Canadian soil, and issue of our diplomatic complexes security. And additionally, what we have been wanting to make clear, we have done it very forcefully, and that is that SFJ must be seen as an offshoot of Pakistan's ISI, completely funded, promoted, backed, propagated by Pakistan's ISI.
All right, Nikunj, thanks so much for decoding that in that great detail and putting things in perspective. Viewers, that really is the focus of India Global, which is the intel diplomacy that we are undertaking with the US, with several other countries as well. Remember, 3 out of the 5 Five Eyes countries did attend the conference with India's National Security Advisor. And the questions we ask is that will India and US now begin intel sharing in greater detail as distrust grows within the Five Eyes network? Remember, Canada and US have also been facing tensions, and that is impacting the Five Eyes network. The second question, will Trump address concerns over growing anti-India elements? You just heard Nikunj talking about it in great detail, about the Sikhs for Justice group, the fact that the Indian representatives are being attacked, the fact that this needs to be seen as an offshoot of Pakistan's ISI. Will all of that be now addressed? And could Five Eyes also grow to include the global south? That really is the other aspect. Let's get in Glenn Carl, who's a former Deputy National Intelligence Officer for transnational threats, joining us on the broadcast. Glenn, now what happened today, yesterday and today is extremely significant for India. The fact that we want to spruce up our intel mechanism and apparatus, the fact that we want to work more closely with the US on several of these concerns. How do you see this now progressing, particularly towards 2 of India's core concerns, which is cross-border terrorism and ensuring that those who are anti-India elements are not sheltered anymore on foreign soil?
I think the subject of the Khalistani operatives in the ISI is a relatively easy, likely win, we could call it, for India in its intelligence relationship with the United States. Because Donald Trump fundamentally, of course, will never say this explicitly, but is hostile to Islamic movements and states. And no one has ever trusted, no one trusts any intelligence service and shouldn't. But in particular, the ISI has played a double game, as India has always argued and pointed out. So on this one, the U.S. doesn't care, really, or certainly the Trump administration, about Khalistani issues particularly, and it would be a good way or simple way for the Trump administration to have closer relationships, and there will be some sort of a quid pro quo by coming closer to India's positions on what to do about Khalistan. I think this is a likely direction.
Right. And where do you see this now, this intel diplomacy, if I may call it, of New Delhi, going forward from here? You know, do you see India being part of the Five Eyes network, or do you see this more being addressed at a bilateral level? How do you see this now being progressing from here on?
Well, I think the Five Eyes is in trouble, and that's because Donald Trump, Tulsi Gabbard, and the Trump administration in general have shockingly disturbing associations and affinities with Russia, frankly. And so the other 4 members of the Five Eyes, other than the United States, I'm certain, are deliberating about how much intelligence they can continue to share without risking the sources, the lives, and the methods, and the national interests of themselves. So Five Eyes is troubled right now. It is an offshoot of World War II, as people probably don't know because it's such a long time ago. And 4 of the 5 were either Great Britain itself or its Commonwealth dependencies. Actually, it's technically still colonies at that time, and the United States, the one wayward colony from long ago. So there's a cultural, historical, and linguistic fundamental component to the Five Eyes. So I find it hard to imagine, really, that the Five Eyes would expand to include India or France, say, but that there be, and already are, extensive and deep intelligence relationships, certainly. Will something new emerge? That's conceivable. I think it's unlikely.
Sir,
I think this is a pretty transactional administration.
Yes, the point is that this is an Anglo-Saxon framework which has pretty much outlived its utility in its present form, simply because the crimes that it is and the threats that it's facing are also now in different forms, whether it is cyber, whether it is, such formats. They don't follow what the Five Eyes network of Anglo-Saxon framework is. So what about some of these new age threats that are coming in? How do you see that being tackled? Primarily, I'm focusing from India's point of view.
Oh, well, I know from my own experience, and logically one would expect, that India and the United States have a rich intelligence relationship. It hasn't been intimate. It's become progressively so year by year for the past 25 years, roughly. So it's certainly more than conceivable that India and the United States bilaterally, and perhaps through the Quad, although Trump has questionable feelings about the Quad and relationships, alliances in general, but it's certainly likely that India and the U.S. will have continued and probably deepening intelligence relationships on areas of mutual interest, which would be terrorism, which is largely Islamic-inspired terrorism. That's certain. New Five Eyes equivalents in the 21st century, that's possible. At least we can say with confidence there will be increasing intelligence sharing and collaboration bilaterally.
All right, let's leave it there, Glenn. Thanks much for speaking to me on India Global. And it's now time to turn to another very important story, which is New Zealand Prime Minister who is in India. And Prime Minister Modi, along with his New Zealand counterpart, resumed negotiations on a free trade agreement between the two countries that has been in cold storage for 10 long years. It paused in 2015. The two leaders reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening bilateral ties, expanding trade, deepening defense cooperation, and maintaining peace in the Indo-Pacific region, and taking a firm stance against terrorism and agreeing to enhance people-to-people ties as being some of the broad areas in which the two leaders agreed to focus on. They've also institutionalized defense and security cooperation in a much bigger way, and also the fact that Indo-Pacific featured very prominently in the discussions between the two prime ministers. As far as immigration is concerned, Prime Minister Modi stressed the importance of having a formal agreement in place, because remember, skilled workers and their immigration and their mobility is very important to India, and that is being reflected in these meetings as well. And in fact, beyond that, the two prime ministers also joked about their cricket affinity and the recent win of the Indian cricket team. But listen in to some of those important aspects of the conversation between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister of New Zealand in those official statements after their bilateral meeting.
न्यूजीलैंड में रहने वाला भारतीय समुदाय न्यूजीलैंड में सामाजिक और आर्थिक विकास में सकारात्मक योगदान दे रहा है। हमने तय किया है कि स्किल्ड वर्कर्स की मोबिलिटी उसको सरल बनाने और इलीगल माइग्रेशन से निपटने के लिए एक समझौते पर तेजी से काम किया जाएगा। यूपीआई कनेक्टिविटी, डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शन और टूरिज्म बढ़ाने पर भी बल दिया जाएगा। शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में हमारे पुराने संबंध हैं। हम न्यूजीलैंड की यूनिवर्सिटीज को भारत में कैंपस खोलने के लिए आमंत्रित करते हैं। फ्रेंड्स, आतंकवाद के खिलाफ हम दोनों एक मत हैं।
Just thank up front Prime Minister Modi for the very warm and generous welcome that we've had, myself and also our delegation. Today we've just concluded a series, I think, of very highly productive meetings, and we also witnessed, as you have seen, a number of government-to-government arrangements that will strengthen the growing ties between India and New Zealand. Prime Minister Modi and I have also issued a joint statement that I think captures the wide range of topics that we have discussed, the arrangements that we have finalised, and the areas of cooperation that we are determined to pursue into the future. I hope that our meeting has left Prime Minister Modi in no doubt about the profound depth of New Zealand's commitment to building a deep, broad-based and enduring relationship with the great nation of India. By broad-based, I mean that New Zealand is committed to doing more with India across a wide range of areas.
Okay, let's get in Mohammad Ghazali to really connect the dots for us here. Ghazali, it's an important bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Modi and his New Zealand counterpart. There are some very important areas that the two countries now want to focus on. But the key aspect of it is trade and Indo-Pacific.
Yeah, certainly. See, trade and security are the two aspects of this bilateral meet which happened today. And when it comes to trade ties, we already know that yesterday it was announced that how India and New Zealand are going to resume the talks on free trade agreement. The two issues which were proving to be bottleneck was the agri and dairy products, on which India, at least initially, thought of that it will be sensitive issue concerning the farmers, that it will now not allow grant or access to New Zealand in terms of to our agri markets, but New Zealand also manufactures a lot of agri products and agri machinery, and that could be useful for our farmers. So that is why that aspect has been discussed, and further discussion will be held in the next round of FTA whenever that schedule is announced. But Prime Minister is stressed upon that this FTA would be a mutually beneficial one, which will benefit both the countries. And why this FTA couldn't take off initially after 2015 or last year when the talks were happening, perhaps all those issues will be ironed out. Besides trade, the other issue was of mobility, which the Prime Minister also is stressed about, that how in FTA the talks will also be focused on moving or sort of looking for immigration of our skilled workers, because out of more than 290,000 Indians who form the largest diaspora in any other country like in New Zealand, India is also sort of focused at how this diaspora and their settlement, their mobility should be very smooth. And that is why the visa issue, that will also be discussed or be part of the FTA. And besides that, a very important issue which was discussed was about the anti-India elements also thriving in that part of the world. Besides the security in the Pacific Ocean, because we know that how China is growing its influence by having contacts in the Cook Island, another country, which is a bunch of islands already having ties with New Zealand. But New Zealand is concerned about China's rising influence in the Pacific Ocean. And we saw how India has been, this entire bilateral talk is more concerned about that India being a larger country is not a bully. That is why in all the common statements issued by the Indian Prime Minister, if you see which happened in Mauritius or which happened with UK or any other country, India has often spoken about that we believe in the freedom of navigation in the waterways, but also we are not expansionist forces. So that has been the fulcrum of this entire talks. And besides that, these anti-India elements thriving in New Zealand was also brought to the notice of the New Zealand Prime Minister. And he has sort of assured Indian government that action will be taken against any such element who, under the garb of freedom of expression, keep fomenting trouble for India or keep voicing their anti-India sentiments there.
All right, let's leave it there, Ghazali. Thanks much for giving that update. And on that note, I'm going to slip into a very short break. More news and updates on the other side. Stay with us.
Quidco gives you cashback every time you shop on over 5,000 brands. It always pays to Quidco. Sign up and start saving today. Visit quidco.com.
With Post Office Over 50s life cover, enjoy peace of mind knowing your family will receive a guaranteed payout when you're gone. UK resident 50 to 80, you're guaranteed acceptance. No health checks and from just £1.15 a week. Plus free 24/7 GP access with the health and wellbeing benefit. Purchase and receive a £125 gift card for amazon.co.uk, Tesco or M&S. Call Post Office on 0800 171 2211.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and
path-breaking innovation and a lot that technology can achieve. But I feel this is one question that I must ask, simply because it impacts so many people's lives, which is, the role AI is playing in our lives in terms of some sort of a disinformation, that's also happening, and a large part of company and government's resources goes in addressing some of this. As I said, it may look much lower in the tech ladder, in terms of what you're doing, but it impacts people's lives. So how can Google sort of address the flip side to AI, which is some of the disinformation that we see? I mean, it may be an inevitable outcome of what you are doing, but is there a way of reducing its potential pitfalls?
So yeah, absolutely. In fact, we think that this is a very important sort of topic that deserves a lot of thought and care. With generative AI especially, it has the ability to sort of generate text, images, audio and video. That ability is very powerful and very useful in many contexts, but it also comes with the risks, right? If the same power is used for malicious purposes. So to make sure that users, when they are consuming this information, they understand whether this content is naturally generated or is synthetically generated, we came up with this technology called SynthID, which is a sort of watermarking scheme which embeds information in the content itself. And we were one of the pioneers in basically doing this. Google was a complete pioneer in sort of doing this, and not only have we integrated this in our models, but in some cases we have also open sourced it, so that other sort of companies and other players in the ecosystem can also sort of employ this and adopt this practice for their own products.
Welcome back. You're watching India Global. We turn attention now to Bangladesh and its chief advisor Mohammad Yunus, who's set to visit China later this month to meet President Xi Jinping and strengthen bilateral relations. Yunus will arrive on the 26th of March. Talks are scheduled for the 28th of March. And key areas of interest will be discussed between Bangladesh and China. The visit comes as Dhaka looks to deepen ties with Beijing, aiming to position itself as a manufacturing hub. Yunus will address the Bao Forum for Asia conference on the 27th of March. Remember, till now, Bangladesh interim chief Mohammad Yunus has not met Prime Minister Modi and has had multiple rounds of engagement either with Pakistan or with China. Staying with China, well, after Prime Minister Modi's comments to the podcaster Lex Friedman regarding relationship with China, the Chinese Foreign Ministry has welcomed those remarks, and in fact there's a statement that has come in from their side as well, that the dialogue should be the focus and not discord when it comes to guiding the bilateral relationship between India and China. That's the official word coming in from the Foreign Ministry. In fact, the official statement says that China noted Prime Minister Modi's recent positive statements on China-India relations and appreciated. She described the relationship between the two countries as a cooperative dance between the elephant and the dragon, asserting that mutual success is the only choice for both sides. Remember, this comes a day after Prime Minister Modi's comments, which said that while India and China have resumed to the 2020 pre-Galwan clash situation, the fact that trust and goodwill is something that needs to be worked upon more between India and China going forward. Ukraine has confirmed troop withdrawal from Sudza region in Russia's Kursk area without confirming the withdrawal. With a statement, the General Staff posted the latest battlefield maps on social media that you're seeing on your screens. It showed a complete retreat from that region. The confirmation comes as Russian troops scale up their offensive in the Russian border region, where Ukraine launched a surprise cross-border incursion last year in August, in the hopes of using the captured territories as a bargaining chip for any potential peace negotiations. Remember, President Zelensky has already announced and offered a 30-day ceasefire, and he's now announced a troop withdrawal from Russian territory. It remains to be seen how soon will a possible peace negotiation take place. And well, that, viewers, could in fact be very soon, given the fact that US President Donald Trump has all plans to speak to his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, tomorrow to discuss ways of ending the war in Ukraine. Positive talks have taken place between US and Russian officials in Moscow last week, and this upcoming conversation signals a pivotal moment in American foreign policy, with Trump's approach to Russia and his stance on President Zelensky under intense scrutiny from European allies. As I said, US has ensured that Zelensky is now wanting a 30-day ceasefire. He's withdrawn from key Russian territories. It now depends on what is the final offer that's on the table between Russia and America to close in on the possible peace negotiations. Trump's firm stance on Ukraine and his perceived rapport with Putin has raised concerns amongst Western allies and leaders of America, and they are watching very closely which way this goes. The discussions are expected to address critical issues such as territorial disputes and control of vital energy infrastructure in Ukraine.
Трамп заявил, что на вторник он планирует разговор с Путиным. Если можно, хотели узнать, согласована ли дата обеими сторонами, могли бы вы подтвердить, что во вторник такой разговор ждем? Спасибо.
Да, это действительно так. Во вторник готовится такой разговор.
Quick break. We come back to discuss Pakistan's big Baloch headache on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
Path-breaking innovation and a lot that technology can achieve. But I feel this is one question that I must ask simply because it impacts so many people's lives, which is the role AI is playing in our lives in terms of some sort of a disinformation, that's also happening, and a large part of company and government's resources goes in addressing some of this. As I said, it may look much lower in the tech ladder in terms of, what you're doing, but it impacts people's lives. So how can Google sort of address the flip side to AI, which is some of the disinformation that we see? I mean, it may be an inevitable outcome of what you're doing, but is there a way of reducing its potential pitfalls?
So yeah, absolutely. In fact, we think that this is a very important sort of topic that deserves a lot of thought and care. With generative AI especially, it has the ability to sort of generate text, images, audio and video. That ability is very powerful and very useful in many contexts, but it also comes with the risks, right? If the same power is used for malicious purposes. So to make sure that users, when they are consuming this information, they understand whether this content is naturally generated or is synthetically generated, we came up with this technology called SynthID, which is a sort of watermarking scheme which embeds information in the content itself. And we were one of the pioneers in basically doing this. Google was a complete pioneer in sort of doing this, and not only have we integrated this in our models, but in some cases we have also open sourced it so that other sort of companies and other players in the ecosystem can also sort of employ this and adopt this practice for their own products. Body works, how life works.
Welcome back. This is India Global. We turn our attention now to Pakistan, where the hijacking of the Jafar Express has set in motion forces what the Pakistani establishment will possibly not be able to quell. The Baloch people have now rallied behind what looks like a movement which makes it now an unstoppable force. The latest attack on the bus indicates the issue is now set to possibly become much bigger going forward, with Pakistani security establishment unable to find any possible answers. Pakistan Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif's rare acknowledgement about the lack of development in Balochistan becoming a major obstacle in eliminating terrorism is indicative of the neglect of one of the richest regions in that area. Its arid and bone-dry terrain is ideal for guerrilla warfare. And it's not a small part of Pakistan, viewers. It's nearly 40%. So how serious is this security conundrum that Pakistan is facing is exactly now what I want to decode. How much of it is a result of the alienation of Balochis due to the Punjabicization of Pakistan that has taken place in the last 7 decades, another area that India Global is going to focus on. And what really is the role of Chinese investments in milking this region that's actually very rich in natural resources, valued at $1 trillion, is another area that I'm going to focus on. And in fact, those questions, viewers, you can see on your screens. Essentially, the point that we are discussing is the struggle in Balochistan as much about territorial integrity as it is about a contest for control over resources that could possibly reshape this entire geopolitical landscape. Let's get in Pramit Pal Chaudhary joining me to talk more on this. Good to have you on the show, Pramit. Talk to us about the situation that is unfolding in Pakistan right now, the fact that there have been multiple attacks, the fact that Balochis have now formed a cohesive resistance. They in fact have a lot of veterans as well. There's military precision with which these attacks are coming in. How do you see this security conundrum for Pakistan going forward?
Thank you. My company, Eurasia Group, we've been looking at some of these developments in Pakistan. And I think what's crucial is that while the Balochis, this is probably, I think, is normally termed the 4th Baloch rebellion against Pakistan. What makes this different from previous ones, I think, there are at least 4 key elements. In the previous ones, were often tribal, or if you wish, in nature. The Balochis were internally divided by various tribal groups, the Buktis, the Maris, and so on. And so a lot of the previous insurgencies, you saw a tribal element, but you did not see all the Balochis necessarily support, as a result, did not support the rebellion together. We are now seeing a sort of non- or detribalized Baloch population, urban in nature, who are ideologically committed to Balochistan independence, or at least Balochistan autonomy, and it's no longer necessarily confined to a tribe. Second, I would argue, and this is, I think, pretty important, is that Pakistan is now much weaker. The military and Pakistan's economy is now much weaker than it was before. Today, Pakistan's GDP is smaller than that of the city of Mumbai. It has struggles in many ways to pay even its basic bills, including some of its maintaining military requirements. In addition, it is geopolitically isolated. Other than China, it has no friends in the international system. But China, as you've already mentioned, is very angry about what is happening in Balochistan, but is not prepared to provide any military support or finances to Pakistan. Quite the opposite. They're withdrawing or reducing their investment profile.
How much?
Because the Balochis are targeting them.
How much of this has been exacerbated by growing Chinese presence? Because there's a lot of resentment amongst the local Balochis.
I think it's proved to be a lightning rod for bringing the Baloch together. The sense, as you mentioned, Baloch is a mineral resource-rich state. It is the primary source of natural gas for Pakistan. And the Balochis have always resented or believed that they have not been getting their fair share of the revenue from these resources. So when China, which, as you know, has been hunting for resources around the planet, comes in, it automatically provides a focus for the Balochis to attack. And as you've mentioned, they've attacked Chinese engineers, Chinese investors. We've seen the Chinese ambassador, unusually for the Chinese, publicly denounce Pakistan on media, saying, you need to give us better protection. It's very difficult for us to work. And the investments are falling. If you look at natural gas production in Pakistan, it has been falling rapidly. Pakistan was self-sufficient in LNG and gas just a few decades ago. Today, it is a major importer of natural gas
Right.
because it cannot dig out any more out of Balochistan. But the final element, and I think this is particularly important and dangerous for Pakistan, is there is now very clear evidence that while Pakistan may claim India is responsible, internally Pakistanis are very clear. What is happening is the new Taliban regime, especially the Taliban Pakistan, the TTP, seems to have formed an alliance with the Baloch. The TTP has already killed.
I was coming to just that, Pramit, that have they been able to now get allies, and which is why they are now such a cohesive fighting unit taking on the Pakistani army?
Yes, very much, because you now effectively Pakistan fighting on two fronts. It is fighting on both its Afghan border as well as internally in Balochistan. And this is stretching the military. It does not have the capacity it used to have to handle this. 1,600 Pakistanis have been killed by the TTP since the Taliban came to power. About 500 to 600 of them are Pakistani security men. And you have the rebellion in Balochistan, and the TTP has the Taliban have the additional capacity that they are a useful ally because they have mountains of armaments. The Americans, when they left Afghanistan in a hurry, they left behind some of the largest stocks of weapons, helicopters, those weapons,
Yes.
drones, guns, ammunition. The Taliban can support the Baloch forever. And this is going to be an enormous problem for Pakistan. And unfortunately, I don't get the sense the Pakistanis recognize that unlike the three previous Baloch rebellions, just simple repression of the Baloch is
not going to work this time around. Yes.
Correct.
All right, let's leave it there, Pramit. Thanks much for joining me to decode a very important story. Shifting now focus to something that is impacting almost all Indians in the US. Amidst Trump's immigration crackdown, there are now green card holders, Indians, who are increasingly facing secondary inspections, overnight detentions by the US Customs and Border Protection, that is the CBP officers at American airports. There are reports that indicate that US Immigration and Nationality attack people. Under that law, there are now more and more detentions being sought, particularly those who are senior citizens. Remember, a lawful permanent resident or a green card holder who is returning to the US after an absence of more than 180 days is being treated as seeking readmission, becoming subject to grounds of inadmissibility, something that is causing a lot of apprehension amongst a large number of people when it comes to the Indian American community, particularly those who are of a certain age bracket. Now, what are the options available for Indian Americans, those who have green card holders? What are their legal avenues? Let's get in Rohit Sharma, who's an immigration expert, to decode that for us. Rohit, these are not isolated instances. Reports indicate there are more and more people, particularly who are senior citizens, who've chosen to spend the winter in India rather than the harsh winter in the US. When they are going back, they are being subjected to a lot of questioning and possibly being coerced to return their green cards. What is happening? What are you advising people who are coming to you with such cases?
Yeah, what is happening, in fact, is that no doubt Trump administration is very much hard on immigration regulations overall, immigrants living in US. So this is just another one step forward to that. But as regard, this entire scenario of targeting the senior citizens are concerned, because they are the ones, who usually are out from US for a period of almost more than 6 months at a time, because they go to their respective countries, like I'm talking about India here. So they go for their winter vacations and they stay a lot outside of US. So what they have given authority to the border security forces these days is that they can investigate, they can interrogate, and they can ask them if they are outside of India for more than 6 months to sign a form that actually can be a voluntarily surrendering green card. Like if you sign that form, then you actually are losing your green card there and then. So as regard this entire scenario is concerned, my advice to the senior citizens is,
Be
first thing
forced
is,
to surrender their green card at that very moment. I'm sure there are legal
Yes.
provisions.
Yes. So that is what I'm saying. So they are actually forcing them to surrender legal provision if they sign that form. So very important for the senior citizens to understand that they are within their rights to not sign that form. They can contest there and then. that they are not going to sign that form. What happens, at times because of the lack of communication and lack of understanding over the language issues and all, and people actually, they get a bit nervous and they sign that I-407 form. So they shouldn't be signing that form. The Border Security Force official has no authority to cancel the green card. They cannot take it and they say it's getting surrendered. They can at my ask you to surrender it voluntarily. So what they can do is they shouldn't be signing that form, and they should stay adamant to that. At max, what happened? They will be subjected to an immigration judge. They will be subjected to the U.S. court. And immigration judge, they do not welcome such scenarios. Even the border security forces officials would not like this matter to go to them. So this is one very, very important point for them, that they shouldn't be signing it up.
I want to ask you one thing. Rohit, which is this you made very clear for our viewers watching this. The other fact is that what if you spend more than 180 days? Let's say you spend 6 months, you want to avoid the harsh winter in the US, you come to India, you spend time with your family. When you go back, what if you cross the 180-day mark? How serious is that?
I'll tell you, crossing 6 months from US actually gives the US authority a right to ask you for readmission to US, right? Readmission. Crossing more than 1 year actually makes you abandoned from US. So as per the US laws, even the authorities are within their right to question you on that. So more than 6 months, they can ask you for the readmission for the green card, and more than 1 year, it will lead to be abandoned from the US. So that is what they have to be careful about. But yes, as a traveler, if you have crossed more than 6 months, 180 days out of US, you still can contest at the airport by showing your strong ties in US, maybe in the form, the tax returns that you have filed, maybe you have assets there, maybe you have children, who are actually doing very well in the US economy, and also all these factors will come into picture. But see, very general advice is try to avoid more than 6 months. You can even land after 5 months and 15 days. And still can contest for it, rather than getting into a situation of more than 6 months, because then they are within their right to question you. They are within their right to ask you as a readmission. But yes, all I'm saying is they can only question you, investigate you, interrogate you, but they cannot revoke your green card status.
That's a very important aspect that you pointed out, Rohit, and that's important for all our viewers watching this, that they can question, they can't revoke. So do not surrender your green card, even if you are subjected to a lot of questioning. But bottom line, try and be back at 5 months and 15 days. That 180-day threshold is not something that's sacrosanct, but it's an important threshold that should not be crossed. Thank you so much, Rohit Sharma, for breaking that down for our viewers watching this, because this is a story that impacts everyone who's watching this. On that note, it's time to take a quick break. We come back with more on the other side.
Oh, wasn't he lovely? That young man at Avanti Travel Insurance.
Yeah, very.
He was so reassuring. They covered all our medical conditions,
Oh, yeah.
Your diabetes, my dodgy hip.
And the rest.
Even at your age, love. Oh. Love?
Oh, great.
Oh, love.
Avanti Travel Insurance cover most pre-existing health conditions for all ages. That's travel reassurance. Call or go online.
I knew I should have got the flamingo.
Protect what matters to you with Simply Safe Home Security. Get our Which Best Buy rated starter pack from under £200. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Sun Bingo. Are you gonna bingo?
I think I'm gonna bingo.
Hey, Charlie 64, are you gonna bingo?
Hey, Sassy Sam. Yeah, I'm gonna bingo. Hey, Geordie George, are you gonna bingo?
Not right now, mate. Maybe later?
Okay. Hazza 93, are you gonna bingo?
Yeah, I'm defo gonna bingo.
Join the fun at Sun Bingo. Are you gonna bingo?
What's wrong with the car? It's okay, lads. I'm with the AA. Ah, Bombay mix.
Because the AA has more expert patrols across the country, you'll be back on the road in no time. No wonder more people choose the AA. Join today.
Sadly, animal cruelty has reached an appalling high. It's the worst animal rescue emergency in our recent history, and we urgently need your help. The RSPCA is the only charity in England and Wales dedicated to animals of every kind. Without us, those facing serious abuse and neglect would simply not be saved. If you can help us carry on this vital work with a monthly gift, please call or text the number on screen now. Anything you can give will help us answer more calls, rescue more animals in danger, and help provide the urgent medical treatment, food, and loving care animals need. I promise we will never give up trying to save every animal we can. But we need your help now, more than ever. Please call 0800 234 6046, text SAVE to 88008, or visit our website to start your monthly donation today. Thank you.
It feels good knowing that your future's in hand. Evlo can offer you a loan from £1,000 to £15,000. Get your conditional decision in minutes.
Body works, how life works.
The India-US strategic partnership is one that's been developing now over the last several decades, and there's a great sense of optimism over here in India that it is headed in a particular direction. To tell us a little bit about that, and there are so many important global events taking place, Tulsi Gabbard with us, the Director of National Intelligence. It's wonderful to have you here in India, and thank you so much for speaking to us. In terms of the strategic relationship and the intelligence arrangements between India and the United States, to what extent is it premised on perhaps an expansionist or an expanding China and the Asia-Pacific region?
You know, the ties between our two countries, the United States and India, go very, very far back. And so what we're continuing to see is a strengthening of that partnership and recognizing that the mutual interests of both of our countries are centered around peace, prosperity, freedom, and security. So now as we see a new administration coming in with President Trump's leadership in the United States, of course, Prime Minister Modi's long-standing leadership here in India, we have two leaders of our two great countries who are very good friends and who are very focused on how we can strengthen those shared objectives and those shared interests.
So in a sense, it's taking forward what we already have in terms of the strategic partnership, and that's one of your primary goals, right?
It is.
That. And how were your meetings to that end?
It is. I've been having great meetings, and of course this began with Prime Minister Modi's visit to President Trump in Washington, D.C., very shortly after he was inaugurated back into office for a second term, where they really set the tone and set the vision for where a stronger U.S.-India partnership and friendship can lead to. And so my visit here is really predicated on the work that has already been done, and I've been having great conversations with my counterparts here in the Indian government. I just met with the Minister of Defence a few minutes ago, and looking forward to visiting with Prime Minister Modi here later today.
And you met the Prime Minister in Washington as well some time back. How did that go? I mean,
it was,
we saw the pictures.
It was great. I had the opportunity to meet him several years ago. It was good to see him again, and it was actually very perfectly timed, where it was maybe 1 or 2 hours after I was officially sworn into this position as Director of National Intelligence that he arrived in Washington, D.C. and had the opportunity to welcome him back to the United States.
Yeah. One of your primary concerns and one of your primary responsibilities is to deal with the threat of terror. And at the moment, we see a great deal of that out of Yemen. We see attacks on shipping taking place, and we see the United States being very much on the offensive. Is that a prelude for something larger, perhaps even a ground offensive going forward?
I mean, you look at President Trump's leadership going back through his first term as president, he has been and remains very committed to combating and defeating the threat of Islamist terrorism that not only affects the United States, the American people, our own safety and security, but it is affecting so many people in different parts of the world. We can see different terrorist groups, the Houthis in Yemen being one of them, that President Trump has redesignated after President Biden took them off of the terrorist list, redesignated them appropriately as a terrorist organization, and taking action where the previous administration failed to.
Right.
The Houthis have been disrupting maritime trade and passage for a very long time. and no serious effort has been taken to stop that disruption. Our country and other countries should not be in a position to have to make a decision to reroute commerce going through that area simply because of the Houthi threat that exists. So President Trump has taken decisive action for our own safety, security, and prosperity. And I know we'll look to other affected countries, as there are many who are impacted by this, to similarly take action.
The other big international talking point is obviously the situation between Russia and Ukraine, and we're all optimistic, and I've covered the war 3 times, on seeing peace in the area. Tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people on both sides have lost their lives. Be that as it may, if President Putin doesn't come on the table with the peace agreement which has been proposed by the United States, can Washington indefinitely keep arming Ukraine and, in a sense, allowing them to continue their fight?
President Trump is seeing this ongoing conflict with very clear eyes. And he has made his position and his priority very clear, which is to bring about an end to this war. So he is focused on peace. The negotiations have just begun. He's looking forward to success in those negotiations, not for himself, but for the cause of peace and to stop the killing of innocent and taking of innocent lives there. So he has the best negotiators working with both the Ukrainians and with Russia and with Putin. And we look forward to seeing the continued progress that we've already seen over a very short period of time. I think it's important to point out that under the previous administration, during which this war began, there was no effort. There was no effort at all towards peace. There was no effort to have direct dialogue with Putin and with Russia to try to bring about an end to this war. So already, in a very short period of time, President Trump has made much more progress towards peace than any effort that has occurred by anyone previously. So we're very encouraged by this progress, and President Trump remains committed to the objective of peace.
How much of what you're talking about now is premised on a successful conversation between President Trump and President Putin? I believe that might take place tomorrow or day after.
Well, as you know, with any of these kinds of negotiations, there's a lot of work that goes between people representing both countries or all of the countries involved in this situation. And at the appropriate time, I'm sure that President Trump will have a very productive conversation with Putin, once again, rooted in his unwavering commitment to peace.
Yeah. Closer to India, Bangladesh, the subcontinent, we've seen a lot of political changes over there, a lot of violence over there, and several reports of attacks on minorities. Is the United States concerned about the situation there and the need for stability at all levels, not just political stability?
Yeah, of course. The long-time unfortunate persecution and killing and abuse of religious minorities, Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, Catholics, and others, has been a major area of concern for the United States government and, of course, President Trump and his administration. The talks are just beginning between President Trump's new cabinet coming in and the government of Bangladesh, but this continues to remain a central focus area of concern, once again, with the threat of Islamist terrorists and their overall effort, the global effort of all of these different groups that are really rooted in their same ideology, their same objective, which is to rule and govern with an Islamist caliphate. This obviously affects people of any other religion other than one that they find acceptable, and they choose to carry this out through very violent and terroristic means. President Trump remains committed once again to identifying this ideology that drives Islamist terrorism, helping to defeat that ideology and defeat their ability to exact that terror on people, the American people and others.
Right. Well, one final question to you. I know you've got a very busy schedule. You are a practicing and a devout Hindu.
Yes.
And you've just missed Holi in India.
Unfortunately.
What does Holi mean to you?
You know, it is a wonderful and colorful celebration of life and really the connection that we all share as people. And this is something from my home in Hawaii, where we greet each other with aloha. Here in India, we greet each other with namaste, but really the deeper spiritual meaning of both of these words is the same in recognizing the eternal and divine spirit that exists within every one of us and that spiritual connection that we have. So for me, at a personal level, this is very, very meaningful, but it's also very practical once again, as our two countries and others in the world should remain focused on our pursuit of peace.
It's wonderful speaking to you. Thank you very much
nice
for speaking
to
to you. Well, there you have it, Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence over here in India. That's broader strategic relationship between India and the US, so very important. But the world is in a difficult situation now, whether it's Yemen, whether it is the situation in West Asia, and certainly Russia, Ukraine, and closer to home in Bangladesh as well. So her thoughts perhaps reflect where the US administration is looking at all of this, and perhaps there is peace in the horizon.
With retirement round the corner, I want to spend more time with my family and less time worrying about the numbers. Which reminds me.
Welcome to British Seniors, the UK's #1 rated provider of over 50s life insurance.
Hi, I'd like a quick quote.
No problem. We're proud to offer our seniors lifetime guarantee. With 100% of claims having been paid, we guarantee your premiums will never go up and that you'll speak to one of our specialists in the UK. UK residents aged 50 to 80 are guaranteed to be accepted. Depending on your age, your loved ones can get a cash payout up to £10,000.
And that money could help with funeral costs or even as a gift for the grandkids. I'll do it.
Plus, when you sign up, you'll receive a £135 gift card and free 24/7 GP advice and health services.
You got them all right. That's amazing.
Be proud to protect your loved ones with British Seniors. To get a free quote today, call our UK team on 0800 977 5808 or visit britishseniors.co.uk.
Right now, a child like Clara needs Childline to answer their call because they're being abused, neglected, or bullied. A child who just wants the pain and fear they're experiencing to stop.
Hello, you're through to someone you can talk to.
For children being abused, Childline is a lifeline.
Something's happened with Mum's boyfriend.
That first call can literally be a life-changing call. In so many cases, we are the first people a child will reach out to. Childline needs your support so we can be there 24 hours a day. Please make sure a child gets the help they need and give just £2 a month now. Call 0800 702 2976 or search NSPCC. You can help us be there for the thousands of children who urgently need someone to talk to. When a child needs to make a life-changing call, you can help make sure we are there to answer it. Thank you.
We know that living with diabetes can make daily life a challenge, and we're here to help.
I felt very low with the diagnosis and very lonely as well and embarrassed.
I think people don't necessarily realise the impact that being diabetic can have on you and the amount of extra decisions you have to make a day through carb counting every single thing you eat.
If you're struggling with the everyday challenges diabetes can bring, become a Diabetes UK member today. Receive this informative welcome pack and Balance magazine.
Balance magazine has been very good in giving me tips to manage my diabetes on a day-to-day basis.
One of the things I was recommended to do was exercise. What motivated me was my love of dance, and I got that back.
Join a community that really understands. Call 0800 035 7605 or go online to become a member for just £3 a month. It feels good knowing that your future's in hand. Evlo can offer you a loan from £1,000 to £15,000, whether it's for home improvements or for some of life's big moments. Evlo looks beyond your credit score and always takes a case-by-case approach. Visit evlo.co.uk to get your conditional decision in minutes.
I'll fix him, love. Poor pet. Just shows you never know what's going to happen. Which reminds me, I need to protect the life we've built. That's why I'm looking into smart family life insurance.
Hi, I'd like a quick quote, please.
OK. You can choose a benefit amount up to £750,000, depending on your age. If you're a UK resident aged 18 to 64, you can apply with just a few health and lifestyle questions. For £250,000 of cover, the price starts at just £14.77 a month.
That's less than I thought. And it could help my husband with the mortgage.
Just like families, not all life insurance is the same. That's why we offer the Smart Family Guarantee.
That's good to know.
You'll also receive a 100% advance in the event of terminal illness and 10% cash back on your first year's premiums. That's the Smart Cashback. Plus, you'll also get your choice of a £125 gift card.
Protect the life you've built the smart way. To get a free quote today, call our specialist UK team on 0800 977 5753 or visit smartinsurance.co.uk.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Tulsi Gabbard meet India, raises issues of Khalistani threats. India raises security of diplomats. India has also said that diplomats are under the threat of terror. US Intel Chief on Bangladesh crisis speaks to NDTV. She says attacks on minorities are a concern. Rising Islamic extremism in Bangladesh is also concerning. The setback for Telangana Chief Minister Rajnath Reddy's government. Telangana journalists have been granted bail. The journalists were held for posting videos against the Chief Minister of Telangana. In the midst of language clash, Andhra Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu has backed the national education policy. The Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh has said that language not meant to be hated. Protests rock Jammu and Kashmir, ruckus in assembly, ruckus over missing youth in J&K. Body of missing youth was found in a drain in Kulgam. In Maharashtra, after VHP and Bajrang Dal threatened to demolish Aurangzeb's tomb, Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis has said that it is protected by the ASI, so while state will protect it, his government will not allow its glorification. US Intel Chief Tulsi Gabbard meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Remember, she is in India for a visit for an Intel meeting, and there she is meeting the Prime Minister of the country, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In fact, she also spoke to NDTV in an exclusive interview today morning, where she said that US President Donald Trump is focused on peace and has made unprecedented progress in negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. She's also spoken about the ties between India and the United States of America. She said that these ties go very far back and that both countries are continuing to seeing a strengthening of those ties, of that partnership. And in fact, both countries recognize that the mutual interest of both countries lies in cooperation. It's centered around peace, prosperity, freedom and security. Prime Minister Narendra Modi there meeting Tulsi Gabbard, the chief of US intelligence. And she has also said that the two leaders of the two countries are good friends and they're focused on how the relationship between the two countries could be strengthened. In fact, she's also said that US President Donald Trump remains committed to combating and defeating the threat of Islamist terrorism. In fact, she's also said that Donald Trump is taking action where the previous administration failed. Well, moving on to the debate that we want to raise tonight, the questions that we want to raise tonight, the relationship between journalists and those in power has always been precarious. And in this country, we've always seen ruling parties often target journalists and also intimidate them. A recent example of this is what is happening in Telangana, what really has unraveled in the state of Telangana. A local court in Hyderabad on Monday granted bail to two women journalists who were arrested for allegedly conspiring against Telangana Chief Minister Rajnath Reddy. Now, the court has also rejected the police's petition seeking custody of these two journalists. According to the court, charges cannot be imposed on the two journalists as what they did was not organized crime and there were no monetary transactions that were made. These two journalists, P. Revati, who is a managing director of Pulse News, and Tanvi Yadav, who is a reporter for the same channel, they were arrested by Hyderabad Police's Cybercrime Division last week. A third individual is also under scrutiny. Now, the police, what we understand, acted on a complaint from the chief of the Congress's state social media unit. The scribes in question are also facing charges such as spreading rumors to incite hatred and provoking a breach of peace. Meanwhile, the police have also said that the video was allegedly shot at the party office at the Bharatiya Rashtra Samiti, which is a main opposition party in Telangana. They allege that there was a political conspiracy in its release in the run-up to the assembly session. Now, this is not an isolated incident. Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma has condemned the violent attack on journalists at Jadavpur University recently, calling it an atrocity committed by left ideological elements. Reports have indicated that journalists were attacked by individuals that are allegedly linked to leftist organizations but were disguised as students and university staff. Now, there are a few incidents that have sparked major concerns over press freedom and safety of journalists. That brings us to the question we want to ask tonight. Have journalists become soft targets in certain states of this country? Are personal liberties at risk, with some in power assuming that they can use the law the way they want against whoever they want? That's a question we want answers to tonight. In fact, joining us now is Rachna Reddy, who's a spokesperson of BJP Telangana. We have Brajesh Kallappa, who's a spokesperson of Congress Party. We have Krishank Mane, who's a spokesperson of the BRS. And we have Sandeep Shastri, who's a director of Academics Niti Education, and also he's a coordinator of Lokniti Network. Thank you all of you for joining me on this broadcast. To you, Professor Shastri, first, help us understand what is happening in Telangana, because Revanth Reddy came on this promise that he is going to not just fulfill guarantees, but there was a certain promise of freedom from the BRS, which was seen as dynastic rule. The court today, in fact, invoked section 101 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita. In fact, it talked about it and said that it was completely unjustified. It has struck it down, saying that at no stage this was justified. In fact, there were no monetary transactions that were found to have been done. Is this a setback to the Congress government in Telangana? And also tell us the scale of this setback.
Vasudha, I would like to view it in a wider context. It's not just a setback for the ruling party in Andhra. I think it is a word of caution for all those who exercise power anywhere in the country. I think it's important to highlight the fact that when people through the democratic process have vested power in a party and a leadership, that power is expected to be exercised with a sense of caution, with a sense of responsibility. And I think the freedom of the media and the independence of reporting and the liberty of speech is something which is the core of democracy and the platform of democratic rights. And we have seen in the past the level of tolerance that leaders have shown towards criticism. And it's just that over time, given the strong political polarization witnessed in this society, all sides seems to take offense on any mild or serious criticism that is leveled against them. So I think there needs to be a greater sense of tolerance on the matter across the board. I'm not blaming any one party for that. Across the board, there needs to be greater tolerance on this matter. And this approach of trying to hold people responsible, trying to take legal action against them for having criticized those in power is something that should be desisted from being done.
Right. Brajesh Kallappa, one of those important lines by Rahul Gandhi is Daro Mat. He has often talked about how it's important to be fearless and, in the face of what seems like bulldozing or in terms of assault on journalistic freedom, has targeting of journalists become easier for some governments than answering those tough questions on governance?
See, in a larger context was, Sudha, not just that I'm a Congress spokesperson today and representing the International Congress on your show, but I've myself been a journalist. And therefore, I can tell you that, there are all kinds of journalists. There are good journalists, there are bad journalists. And, while speaking about journalism as a field generally, one can't put everybody in the same basket, right? So I don't know what the facts of this case are, but if there is going to be a hit job by a political party making use of in quotes journalist to malign the government, then I don't think that is on journalism at all. Honestly, I think you as a journalist will also agree with me that that will be a propaganda piece, and certainly that doesn't qualify to be journalism, right? Now, if it is true, I don't know what the facts are, and I'm sitting in Bengaluru, I'm not in Hyderabad. I don't know what the facts are. Therefore, if there is a piece which is being done from a political party's office and which is highly defamatory and which has the potential to ignite a spark which, cinders society, I think the government has a duty to ensure that law and order is maintained. So
Mr. Kalapa, let me just ask you this question. So this immediate arrest was clearly not warranted because all of us have been journalists. I completely agree with you that journalists, like other professionals, can also be of different hues. And there are laws against defamation also. There's a PCI code that we have. There are also, editors who are there. There could be other ways of expressing that a certain story is completely misleading. In this case, the lawyers are arguing that the court, at the time of these journalists being sent to judicial, that demand, that whole action was grossly disproportionate. In fact, this immediate arrest was completely not warranted. Do you think that there was some overreach of certain kind that could have been avoided?
See, Vasudha, like I said, I don two roles. One, I'm a former journalist, and currently I'm a lawyer. So therefore, I'm very happy that the courts have intervened and have, set the, the entire thing in order. Okay. So therefore, if there is no recourse to Section 111, then it means that have the charges been waived against these people? So that is a question. If the charges largely remain, but one section has not been, kind of been accepted by the court, I think honestly it's not great news for them. But I wish that if they were genuine journalists, I wish they would genuinely make a point and try to be able to get some kind of justice from the courts of the country. But having said that, I would only like to say that if it's true that it is a propaganda piece and which is aimed at a political party by a rival political party, certainly that doesn't qualify to be journalism. It doesn't, then behove all of us to kind of speak about them as journalists. Okay. They are essentially working for a political party against a political party, another political party.
Okay, Prashant Mane, let's get you in here. It's, just quoting Revanth Reddy from what he said, it's time to define who a journalist is, and a law should be passed to prevent vicious online campaigns by those posing as journalists. He has said that media organizations, media associations, and also PR departments and authorized news agencies should be defining and identifying legitimate journalists so that they are exempt from such state action. Now, this is clearly an overreach because, the state is not somebody to decide who a journalist is and what he or she should be doing.
Absolutely, Vasudhaji. The media fraternity has to take a stand and decide who the journalist is, rather than governments, because governments are not permanent. They can end up in opposition to, vice versa. Why I'm saying this is, if you are questioning the genuinity of these particular journalists who were imprisoned by the same Revanth Reddy's government, when Revanth Reddy was the opposition leader, when he was the PCC president, he lauded the same journalist, particularly we are talking in this incident. Suddenly, how is she not qualified now? Suddenly, how do you question the YouTubers? In the House of Assembly, you question YouTube journalism. But you should remember that you came into power with the support of those YouTube journalists. You've given numerous interviews to them. You stood by them. You support them. And once you get into power goes beyond your head that you question their sanctity, you question their qualification. So this double standardness is by the current government is what we are questioning today. When the same journalists were supported by Revanth Reddy, today, why do you put them in jail? Why do you question their sanctity? Not just these cases. You've thrown allegations at them, which do not stand at the court, and they've got bail today. Vice versa, the whole modus operandi of this arrest. I mean, see, if someone forgets your name, a star forgets your name, you barge into his residence at 5 a.m., Allu Arjun was arrested. Here, same lady journalists, 5 a.m. Why this treatment? Maintain some sensitivity. And what is your statement? In the assembly, you say that these people are talking. I will get them stripped, paraded naked, and I can send Congress cadre, a lack of Congress cadre, and ensure they are attacked. Is this the language towards journalists?
Absolutely. Let me take a response from Mr. Kalapa. But before that, Rachna Reddy, how do you look at this, ma'am? Because, as also somebody from the opposition, do you think that journalists are being able to do their job of independently reporting and seeking accountability from Telangana government? Or there are certain things that are amiss here, even for us. How do you see this as somebody from the BJP?
Hello, everyone. This is a case, yes, Krishank has been really kind, but this is a case of absolutely the pot calling the kettle black. Revanth Reddy has come to power, or he has risen to power on the back of abusive, and I'll repeat the word again, abusive politics in Telangana. This is a man who speaks about, his emotional, so-called emotional, pretextual speech in the assembly was absolutely hypocritical, because this is a man who speaks about how can you talk about like this about my family, and how can you talk like this about the women in my family, etc. This is a man who has consistently, continuously, and absolutely abused the erstwhile government and the people in power and their family, who are, lo and behold, not a part of politics, not a part of political discourse. You speak, you criticize about the families, or rather about the people in the families who are part of the political discourse. That's one thing. But he absolutely lampooned, and I will use the word once again, lampooned, the family members who are not a part of anybody's political discourse of the erstwhile government. And this man here today stands in the assembly and speaks about his family and his women, and his this thing. He has absolutely no standing.
Okay, then let me take a response from Brajesh Kalapa. Mr. Kalapa, you also heard what the BJP spokesperson said, and of course, Krishank has pointed out this use of language, and also certain episodes with Allu Arvind, or for that matter, the journalist. Do you think that there is a certain abrasive nature to the Congress government's working in Telangana, which is completely antithetical to what, say, Rahul Gandhi has talked about?
See, Vasudha, as far as the Allu Arjun episode is concerned, the entire film fraternity has accepted what has happened. They, in fact, showed up at the Chief Minister's meeting. They have kind of spoken to him. They have accepted what has happened. They've also accepted that, there were certain faults which they promised to kind of undo. So, trying to link that to say that, Revanth Reddy had a personal axe to grind against Allu Arjun is, I think, absolutely frivolous. And I think that's an issue that has been settled. Now, second part is that regarding a certain journalist, right? Where was the need for this so-called journalist to shoot at the opposition political party's office and then make completely abrasive, defamatory comments against family members of the Chief Minister, if at all? I don't know what kind of journalism it is that that makes you kind of a propaganda piece, and then says that, look, you abuse a chief minister in office. Now, what the lady is now speaking about, the BJP spokesperson, is saying that Mr. Revanth Reddy also used similar language. So let BRS leaders use that language. Who is opposed to that? Okay. As political leaders,
Krishank, would you like to respond to that quickly?
That's not what I've stated.
Yes.
What I've stated is
Krishank,
Revanth Reddy cannot take a hypocritical stand here. And who is he to?
I didn't expect this from Mr. Brajesh Kalapa.
Krishank, can we just have Krishank?
Vasudha-ji,
Yes.
Vasudha-ji, I did not expect this from Brajesh Kalapa-ji, because we cannot lose our culture like Revanth Reddy's statement, because let him know that just 3 days ago, he wished that Mr. KCR, the ex-chief minister, should be gone into a mortuary. Currently, he's in a stretcher and he should be gone into a mortuary. This was his statement. So we cannot be so abusive. That is not what people expect from us. That is what not people elect us for, number one. And let me tell you, in each party office, people, karyakartas, farmers, everyone come. Every channel is available there, Kalapaji. The same, it was a farmer and he did not speak against the family members. The reporter, in fact, requested the farmer not to abuse the chief minister, but the farmer clearly said that it was his pain because he felt cheated by the Congress government, who gave their promises but did not deliver. The 4,000 pension is not delivered. The right to Bharosa is not delivered. The Runa Maafi was not delivered. And this is not the first time. Let me tell you, across Telangana, people are angry against the Congress government, and that is what they've been talking in
last
this
word
videos. It was
from
not the
Professor
journalist.
Shastri. How do you see the governance of Revanth Reddy, specifically his action against journalists? Has Telangana seen something like this? Is there a precedence of something like this, or is it something that that's being viewed as completely new by the people of the state?
No, as I said in my introductory comments, we clearly have seen in the past across states, Telangana included, the abuse of power by people who have been in power, the treatment of journalists in a manner which is not appropriate. We have seen this being done by different political parties when they are in power. Given the current situation, I think there was a need for some restraint.
Okay.
There is a need for the use of proper language.
That's very well said. Time for restraint. That's, I think, the last word for today. Thank you all of you for joining me on this broadcast. A local court in Hyderabad has granted bail to 2 female journalists who were arrested by Telangana police earlier this month for allegedly circulating content against Chief Minister Revanth Reddy. The Chief Minister says it's time to define who a journalist is, and that a law should be passed to prevent vicious online campaigns by those posing as journalists. Larger questions being raised there, but of course, there should be no space under any law for harassment of journalists. Of course, the court has given relief to the journalist in questions. We'll have to wait and see how the Telangana government reacts to this. Meanwhile, more news from the same state. Telangana Chief Minister Revanth Reddy has announced ensuring 42% reservation for the OBC population in the state in education, jobs and employment, and also political representation. My colleague Uma Sudhir joins us with more details on this. Uma, there's a big announcement by Revanth Reddy today. He's also the man who sort of got the caste census done, at least the process initiated. Tell us the fallout of this and also the significance of this move. Umak, if you can hear us, can you tell us the significance of this important announcement by Revanth Reddy, 42% reservation for OBC population in the state in education, jobs, employment and also political representation? Okay, so we'll try connecting with Uma Sudhir in just a bit. This is just to remind our viewers that Telangana Chief Minister Revanth Reddy has made an important announcement just now. He has announced ensuring 42% reservation for the OBC population in the state when it comes to education, jobs, employment, and also political representation. He posted on X, and I quote, "Today, as the leader of the Telangana Legislative Assembly, as Chief Minister, I declare that based on the most scientific, rigorous and excruciating efforts of our people, we can say that the OBC population in Telangana is 56.36%. Uma Sudhir joins us. Uma, tell us the significance of this important announcement and also what is the likely fallout of this?
So this is something that the Congress had promised prior to the elections about enhancement of backward class quota and also SC subcategorization. So today is being called a historic day because those 3 bills were introduced. 2 have to do with the backward class quota enhancement, 1 in jobs and in education, and the second one in the political representation in the local bodies. And the third bill had to do with SC subcategorization. And Revanth Reddy, in fact, wanted to be the first state to do it after the Supreme Court had in fact said that you can have internal reservation within the scheduled caste. It had announced that in August of 2024 is when the orders had come from the Supreme Court. Of course, Haryana beat Telangana to it, but that ran into legal trouble. What Revanth Reddy is today claiming is that they have done it, followed the correct process and gone with a proper study. No caste study has been done anywhere in the country till, from after 1931. And he claims that the survey that was done by the Telangana government is one of its kind and therefore a model for the country. And that bill has now been introduced. In fact, all the parties have said that they're unanimously supporting this. That included, of course, the BRS. But this will have to go to the center and will have to be approved. And everyone knows that the Supreme Court has in 1992 spoken about 50% as a ceiling. And therefore, the BRS is saying that just like Tamil Nadu managed to do it, getting a 69% reservation in Tamil Nadu by getting the Act of Tamil Nadu included in in the Schedule 9 of the Constitution. Similarly, they want Revanth Reddy also to be responsible for doing that, so that they can beat the 50% ceiling and ensure that 42% quota comes to the backward classes, not just in jobs and education, but also in political spaces. Third bill, of course, had to do with SC subcategorization, which once again, Revanth Reddy believes will be a historic step. And all these three bills may be passed tomorrow. But today, just one final word, that they also have renamed Sri Ramanu University. That's of course someone who was forming the Andhra Pradesh state. That has been renamed today with a Telangana icon, and that is also something that is being celebrated here at Suravaram Pratap Reddy University.
Right. Thank you, Masudi, for joining us with those important details. A very important announcement by the Telangana state government today. Chief Minister Revanth Reddy announcing 42% reservation for the OBC population in education, jobs and also political representation. With that, it's a wrap from me. More news and updates on the other side of this break.
What are you so happy about?
I've just made a claim. We could be owed thousands.
My claim group?
Yeah, the cars we bought on finance, well, the lenders could have charged hidden commissions. It's dead simple to claim.
Hey, I had 2 cars before we met.
Go to My Claim Group. You could be owed thousands in hidden commissions from cars you bought on finance since 2007, even if you can't remember the details.
Done.
Simple, eh?
Go to My Claim Group now.
Claims made simple.
I gotta be me.
In here.
I gotta be me. What else can
This lunchtime, go all crisp in with Walkers.
This poor creature is a lion, trapped in a cold, bare cage, alone. Terribly malnourished, just skin and bone. How can anyone simply leave a lion to rot and die? Right now, there are thousands of big cats suffering the same torment, languishing in cruel cages, neglected, abandoned, left to die. Will you help Four Paws free big cats suffering around the world right now? Please call 0800 035 7798, text RESCUE to 70544, or go online and give just £3 a month. Help Four Paws cut the bars and rescue these cats from their prisons. Help us take them to our sanctuaries where they can begin to recover. You'll be setting big cats free from pain and protecting them from cruelty, letting them see the blue sky above and breathe the clean, fresh air of freedom for the first time. But they are the lucky ones. Please call 0800 035 7798, text RESCUE to 70544 to give £3 a month via your mobile phone. Because if no one cuts the bars and frees these big cats, they will die trapped and alone.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
Path-breaking innovation and a lot that technology can achieve. But I feel this is one question that I must ask simply because it impacts so many people's lives, which is, the role AI is playing in our lives in terms of some sort of a disinformation, that's also happening, and a large part of company and government's resources goes in addressing some of this. As I said, it may look much lower in the tech ladder in terms of, what you're doing, but it impacts people's lives. So how can Google sort of address the flip side to AI, which is some of the disinformation that we see? I mean, it may be an inevitable outcome of what you are doing, but is there a way of reducing its potential pitfalls?
So yeah, absolutely. In fact, we think that this is a very important sort of topic that deserves a lot of thought and care. With generative AI especially, it has the ability to sort of generate text, images, audio and video. That ability is very powerful and very useful in many contexts, but it also comes with the risks, right? If the same power is used for malicious purposes. So to make sure that users, when they are consuming this information, they understand whether this content is naturally generated or is synthetically generated, we came up with this technology called SynthID, which is a sort of watermarking scheme which embeds information in the content itself. And we were one of the pioneers in basically doing this. Google was a complete pioneer in sort of doing this, and not only have we integrated this in our models, but in some cases we have also open sourced it, so that other sort of companies and other players in the ecosystem can also sort of employ this and adopt this practice for their own products.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, you're watching NDTV. Social media influencer Ori has been booked along with 7 others for allegedly drinking alcohol at a hotel in Katra, which is the base camp for the Vaishno Devi pilgrimage in Jammu and Kashmir's Riyasi district. Now, Ori and his friends were charged under Section 223 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita for allegedly consuming alcohol within their hotel premises in Katra's Cottage Street area, despite strict regulations that prohibit alcohol and non-vegetarian food. Now, this hotel is located near the Vaishno Devi shrine, and that is why there are these rules that are enforced to maintain sanctity of the sacred pilgrim spot. Now, the incident has gained widespread attention after photos came out showing alcohol bottles on the table, and this has also sparked intense backlash on social media, with several people on the internet condemning this behavior, calling for stricter actions and also demanding a ban on Ori from visiting this religious town. Now, Riyasi's senior police official Parambir Singh has issued strict instructions to take all the accused persons in custody to set an example and to emphasize that drugs and alcohol will not be tolerated at religious sites. Now, a team has also been formed to track down the accused persons. Just recently, we saw celebrity podcaster Ranveer Alabadia's case becoming a big controversy because of the very nature of his comments. So the question we ask today is, as India's influencer culture grows, should there be more sensitization, more self-awareness about one's own political, social and public conduct? Also, should there be more legal safeguards? How can one have checks and balances on an individual adult's behavior? Are influencers really here to inspire us, or is that too much to expect from them? Are they just there seeking attention, battling their own battles? So that's what we will try and discuss tonight. But first, let's listen in to some reactions.
वीडियो क्लिप्स सोशल मीडिया में सर्कुलेट हुआ था और हमें होटल के जीएम के थ्रू भी एक जानकारी, एक कंप्लेंट आई हमारे पुलिस स्टेशन में, जिसमें उन्होंने कहा कि एक ओरी नामक जो एक यूट्यूबर इन्फ्लुएंसर है, कुछ दोस्तों के साथ वहाँ पे होटल में था और उन्होंने शराब का मीन्स कंजम्पशन वहाँ पे किया। और आप जानते हैं कि हमारे जो कटरा टाउन एक होली टाउन है और दुनिया भर के लोग वहाँ पे आते हैं, उनकी आस्था वहाँ पे जुड़ी हुई है। और वहाँ के एक सब डिविजनल मजिस्ट्रेट की एक नोटिफिकेशन के तहत अल्कोहल का वहाँ पे कंजम्पशन और सेल प्रोहिबिटेड है, और उसी नोटिफिकेशन का कॉग्निजेंस लेते हुए हमने उन लोगों के खिलाफ एक पर्चा दायर किया है और उसमें इन्वेस्टिगेशन स्टार्ट की है।
We have a panel of experts joining us. We have SP Vaid, who is a former Director General of Police of the Jammu and Kashmir Police. In fact, Pratishtha Arora also joins us. She's the CEO of Social and Media Matters. We have Tara Deshpande, who's an actor and also a writer. Thank you all of you for joining me on this broadcast. To just understand what this law is all about, SP Vaid, sir, can you tell us what is this law all about? Consumption of alcohol and also non-vegetarian places. In most religious places, is that illegal? And do most people know about this?
Namaskar. See, the district magistrate of the district, that is Riyasi district, Katra falls in Riyasi district, he actually issues an order under section 144. And that order, if somebody disobeys it, earlier it used to section 188 of the IPC, or in J&K it was earlier known as RPC, Ranveer Penal Code, which is similar like IPC. But now with the new Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, I think section 223 is if somebody does not obey the orders of the executive magistrate, in case of the district, it is a district magistrate. In case of Katra, since it is a subdivision of Riyasi district, so SDM actually repeats the same order of the district magistrate of Riyasi. So it prohibits consumption of liquor and non-vegetarian because of religious sanctity. And it's not happening today. I have been SSP of Udhampur district earlier. This was part of Udhampur district. Way back 3 decades. So I was later on even as IG Jammu, which actually controls the whole Jammu division, and Director General Police. So this is the section 223 actually implies that you will be punished for an imprisonment of 1 year and a fine of 2,500 or both, depending on the whoever is the magistrate announcing the punishment. So I think there is a religious sanctity to these places. People have sentiment, and that's why these orders are repeated every year. In fact, once in every month, these orders are repeated, and these are in force. And whoever violates it, actually, the punishment is imposed on him. Okay. So the social influencers must be very, very careful. This is not a picnic spot. Vaishno Devi is not a picnic, so you're not going for picnic there. So if you are going to Patni Top or Gulmarg or Pahalgam, you are free to consume liquor or whatever you want, but you can't do this in Katra. So there is order which is imposed every month in the district of Riyasi for Katra, particularly only holy town of Katra. No other place in Riyasi district or rest of Jammu and Kashmir.
Okay, understood. So, Tara Deshpande, let me bring you here. It's very interesting whatever Mr. Vaid is saying. A lot of these things, even I wasn't aware of a lot of these things. So I wanted to understand from Ori is an internet sensation. We have seen him in Coffee with Karan. We have seen him in a lot of reels. So clearly there is a lot of attention on him. Also, he's part of this attention economy where, he also thrives on attention. Tell us, are we as a society largely unforgiving when it comes to these crimes or illegal actions by celebrities? Or is it, is it important for these social media influencers to also come across as people who have complete regard for the laws of the land?
Well, I think, religious sentiments do need to be respected, and the law of the land does need to be respected. But we also know that these are young people. They were sitting in a closed hotel room. They are from outside. They are not from the area. There is a small likelihood that maybe they didn't quite understand the laws, which can be quite complex. Did the hotel inform them of what they were allowed to do or permitted to do? Maybe they thought, you can't drink outside, but in the hotel room, it's okay, it's acceptable. I think the case needs to be looked at in more detail. These aren't perpetual offenders or serious criminals of any kind. They're young people, and young people do make mistakes. They tend to have less sort of reverence for politics and for religion. They tend to be politically incorrect. It's a part of being young. We've all made mistakes. So I think certainly, they should be given a talking to and maybe the fine or whatever the law is. But I think imprisonment is very, very harsh. I'm sure that they will apologize and be sorry for what they've done. But a little bit more looking into the case in detail to see what led to this might be a good thing to do.
Right. Pratisha Arora, what do you feel about this, ma'am? Because, clearly, like what Mr. Vaid was saying and also what Tara is also saying, there needs to be, so there are these sentiments which have been hurt, there's also law that has been violated, and also these are young people who have come who probably may not really know what was happening, and they also need to have regard for the law, so they also need to be apologetic, they need to understand what they've done is wrong. How do you understand the gravity of something like this and also ensure that, we don't come across as completely, as scrutinizing the celebrities just too much?
Yeah, thank you. I think so. Many of the influencers like Uri and others are seen as role models for many young generations as well, right? Doing such kind of an incident does make an impact to them that, if they are doing it, then probably, we can also do it. So that kind of an impact, it leaves an impact on them. So to be very crucial on what you are posting on social media, especially because this can take to different tangents as well. The recent case of Samir Raina has taken a different curve. So we need to understand, especially these influencers, also like, what they're posting. I totally, I'm totally in favor of freedom of expression. But then when it comes to rules and regulations, we also need to adhere to them. That what are these platforms, because it has gone on socials. We also need to understand the community standards that these platforms have defined. What is the content that can go up on the platforms that needs to be taken care of. So somewhere or the other, as an influencer, I totally, I'm on the path that, we can express what we feel like, because it's a very restricted kind of a place. It's a very holy place. There are many religious sentiments that are attached for many others as well. So keeping that in mind, I think so as a person who's been working in this field, this has taken a very different kind of a curve for many influencers as well, and this can impact the lives of other influencers. So making it more positive content that can go up on socials is something that needs to be thought about, especially by these influencers.
Right. Mr. Vaid, also help us understand, how do you see this case proceeding from here on, sir? Because a police team has been, set up to take further action. In fact, there are police officials who have openly said that there will be strict action that will be taken against them. All the accused have to be brought in. How do you see this case proceeding from here? Because in the case of Ranveer Alabadia, we saw the cases landing up in the court. Some of them are still going on. In this case, what do you think will happen next?
See, I was listening to Tara and also Pratisha. They have a viewpoint, I agree with them. Maybe he may not be knowing about the legal position in Katra, but then it is in a prominent place in the hotels and in guest houses. It is generally displayed that this thing is prohibited in this town. Maybe the magistrate, when police presents him before the magistrate, he can take a lenient view and reduce the punishment, or maybe give a warning and leave them. That is absolutely his prerogative, the magistrate's prerogative. But if it is a deliberate act, my own view is the hotel should not have. The manager in the hotel knew about it. Because he is running a hotel there, so he should not have served liquor if the hotel has served it. And if they had brought with them, then yes, you thinking that they may not be knowing about the rule, they can be a lenient view can be taken. But I was listening to the SSP of Riyasi and Paramilitary Singh. I think he has no option but to take legal action, because that is the law here, and everyone is expected to observe. The ignorance of law is no excuse in our country. So one has to go as per the law. The police officer has no option but to register an FIR, investigate the matter, and present before the magistrate.
Right. Tara, also help us understand, do celebrities and influencers face undue pressure to behave ethically at all times? Because even in this case, the matter became a controversy because photos started surfacing. And also, when I look at reels on Insta, on, on influencers, there is often this comment by viewers that says, "Kaun si duniya mein rehte hain?" Which world do they live in? So is there a sense of mismatch between the world that they live in and the world that actually exists?
It's a paradoxical situation because on one hand you have people saying celebrities do whatever they want and the law never touches them. And then on the other extreme, you have a situation where they are punished or so much of the spotlight is put on them and all kinds of memes are made and all kinds of ridiculous actions are taken against them to make them into examples. To set an example, they are more harshly treated or harshly punished. So somewhere you have to find a median. But one of the things that I wanted to say is, this term influencer, it's, just because a person has a large following doesn't necessarily mean that the people who follow him or follow her or whoever it may be, treat them as role models. Sometimes people just follow them because it's funny or because it's ludicrous. I mean, if you look at the kind of garbage that there is out there on social media today, not very little of it is actually instructional or of value. How many people will you go after for on the basis of the fact that somebody is a role model? Yes, I think that they should have been more careful. They should have certainly been more respectful. But at the same time, I think, the law has to decide now what has to be done. And I do hope they're lenient because these aren't like serious criminals. I do understand that religious sentiments were hurt, but that's again a broad description. Because, I mean, if someone had said, they were drinking and driving, my opinion would be just throw away the key, give them the harshest punishment possible. Because there are real consequences to drinking and driving. There are real consequences to peddling drugs. There are real consequences to, for instance, acting violently when you're drunk. Right. But I feel personally, and maybe this is because, I'm the kids, so I feel bad for them. I feel very bad for their parents that it's come to this. They must be terrified, their child being arrested by the police. So I do hope that the judge is lenient and people understand that celebrities are also human beings. And I hope the people who have influence understand that they have to be very, very careful now because there are so many ways of looking at a single post. It really depends on who's reading it, right? How they interpret it.
Right.
So it's a tough situation to be in.
Right. Pratisha, I've never been in favor of more laws. We already have the BNS, we have parts of the IT Act, we already have the IT rules. Now, this is also a game of getting more clicks when it comes to social media influencers. Is it also important to look at the way attention economy works? Because Ori thrives on attention. He's a product of social media, somebody, who is known as Bollywood's BFF. We see him on Reels. How important is it to also look at the attention economy that thrives on shares, retweets, and just the fact that you're getting attention?
I think so that plays a very big role because social media is all about attention somewhere or the other. So you're gaining your popularity because on the number of interactions that you are having based on retweets, based on shares, based on likes, that totally gains your attention over there. So somewhere or the other, see, we all have that presence over there because we want that attention. We want that limelight. We want to be more popular, not because of the kind of acts that we are doing in these public spaces, but for good work as well, right? The idea of these social media platforms was not just to create any sort of a harm, or there was no intent to create ruckus on these platforms. It was just a medium for us to interact, for us to engage, right? But now it has taken a very different shape when we are talking about even digital harms, digital safety on different in different spaces as well. So somewhere or the other, of course, even this will go live, we'll get some kind of an attention over there as well, like all three of us, all the speakers over here, right? So somewhere or the other, it is attached to it. So we need to kind of draw that line.
Right. SP Ved, last word from you, sir. How do you see the case proceeding, and what are the learnings from here on to not just social media influencers, but also something that you pointed out, pilgrim spots being treated with the kind of sanctity, with the kind of respect they deserve because they're not picnic spots?
Yeah, I'm in favor of taking a lenient view. I hope the judge takes that. But I think more publicity is needed. Maybe a person coming from South India or maybe coming from Mumbai may not know about it. It needs to be either prominently displayed all over the town because just issuing an order doesn't mean everyone is expected to know it. So, though the law of the land is, ignorance of law is no excuse here. So, if tomorrow I violate some law, I'm liable to whatever penalties are under the law. But I'm expected to know the law. But as a common citizen also, today I'm a retired police officer. I'm a retired, like all four of you, all three of you. So I'm a common citizen. So I'm supposed to observe the law wherever I go. So similarly, the social media influencers, because of the kind of attention they get, they need to be extra careful. They have to be sensitive to, because they wield a lot of influence, and whatever they do, millions of youngsters follow them.
Right.
So look at the episode of unfortunate incident of Ranveer. I have been on his podcast, Ranveer Allahabadia, and such a he is a bright young man, and I have been to Mumbai on his podcast, and look at the kind of unfortunate thing came out of his mouth. I think that had a very, very bad effect on not only the parents, even the youth of this country. So these kind of things cannot be allowed.
Right. Tara Deshpande, closing remarks from you, ma'am. Also, while we talk about social media influencers being far more sensible and mindful of Indian sensibilities, is there also a need for lawmakers to understand that there's a generational shift, and it's important for policy makers, lawmakers to also understand what trends are, what Insta is, what kind of reels are, and what kind of influence that these social media guys could be having on lives and lifestyles?
Well, the entire world is grappling with this situation because having more followers, you're monetizing, you're making money, you're becoming famous, you are getting endorsements, you are doing collaborations. It is an economy, within your phone, within your laptop. So there are consequences for that. But at the same time, it's very complicated because the person may be in one country, but his views are being seen by people in many, many countries. In one country, that may be illegal. In another country, it may not be illegal. It has really complicated matters. I mean, look at the Andrew Tate case, right? Look at so many cases that have come up where there are very serious crimes being committed by people who have influence over their followers. I mean, it's sort of like those cults that used to exist in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, where, religious cults where they had this massive influence over their followers and made them do terrible things. Now, this is sort of perpetuated without boundaries, without walls, all across the world. So it is much more serious than ever before.
Right.
So I think maybe, some kind of global understanding is needed, just as we're trying to sort of all collaborate.
So understanding and restraint seem to be the way forward. Thank you all of you for joining me on this broadcast. Social media influencer Rory has been booked along with 7 others for allegedly drinking alcohol at a hotel in Katra in J&K. We'll have to wait and see how this case proceeds investigation-wise and also in courts. But the larger question is on the kind of attention that attention economy deserves, because it takes center stage with respect to shares and likes, and that is something that needs to be talked about. With that, it's time for a break. More news and updates on the other side.
Leave a gift in your will to Sightsavers. And together, we can create a future where no one goes blind from preventable causes.
The life of a cat is so lovely. Whatever I do, you still love me. And each day Felix appears, I'm certain that it's great to be a cat.
Try the irresistibly tasty Felix as good as it looks. Purina.
It feels good knowing that your future's in hand. Evlo can offer you a loan from £1,000 to £15,000, whether it's for home improvements, new appliances, a car, or for some of life's big moments. So even if you've had problems with credit before, Evlo looks beyond your credit score and always takes a case-by-case approach. Visit evlo.co.uk to get your conditional decision in minutes. Evlo, your future in your hands.
Now I'm retired, I can spend more time with my grandson. I'm proud of him and want to help any way I can. Which reminds me.
Welcome to British Seniors, the UK's #1 rated provider of over 50s life insurance.
Hi, I'd like a quick quote.
No problem. We're proud to offer our seniors lifetime guarantee. With 100% of claims having been paid, we guarantee your premiums will never go up and that you'll speak to one of our specialists in the UK.
Well, that's good to know.
UK residents aged 50 to 80 are guaranteed to be accepted. Depending on your age, your loved ones can get a cash payout up to £10,000.
And that money can help with my funeral costs or even be used as a gift. I'll do it.
Plus, when you sign up, you'll receive a £135 gift card and free 24/7 GP advice and health services.
Thanks, Mum, for everything.
Be proud to protect your loved ones with British Seniors. To get a free quote today, call our UK team on 0800 158 552 or visit britishseniors.co.uk.
Quidco gives you cashback every time you shop on over 5,000 brands. It always pays to Quidco. Sign up and start saving today. Visit quidco.com.
Our first year as a family flew by. And now, I want to make sure he'll be financially protected for all his birthdays to come. And that's why I'm calling Smart Insurance.
Hi, how can I help?
Hi, I'd like a quick quote for family life insurance.
OK, you can choose a benefit amount up to £750,000 depending on your age.
That's great.
If you're a UK resident aged 18 to 64, you can apply with just a few health and lifestyle questions. For £250,000 of cover, the price starts at just £14.77 a month.
That's less than I thought. And could help my wife pay off the mortgage.
And with our Smart Family Guarantee, you'll have peace of mind.
That's good to know.
You'll also receive a 100% advance in the event of terminal illness and 10% cashback on your first year's premiums. That's the Smart Cashback. Plus, you get your choice of a £125 gift card.
Protect the life you've built the smart way. To get a free quote today, call our specialist UK team on 0808 141 5855 or visit smartinsurance.co.uk.
With Post Office Over 50s life cover, enjoy peace of mind knowing your family will receive a guaranteed payout when you're gone. UK resident 50 to 80, your guaranteed acceptance. No health checks and from just £1.15 a week. Plus free 24/7 GP access with the health and wellbeing benefit. Purchase and receive a £125 gift card for amazon.co.uk, Tesco or M&S. Call Post Office on 0800 171 2211.
You know, the toughest part of the whole grief, I'll never forget, is when Nan turned to me one time. And she goes, "John, I don't know what's happening to me."
Those weeks that he came in, with the 3 weeks that I could be his little girl again, nothing I can do will repay Marie Curie for doing that for. The amazing gift that they gave me was I was there at his last breath. He was there for my first.
In the calls, they just listen. She just said, "John, just speak."
Although people don't like to talk about it, but we're getting older, it has to be done.
You start to think about, well, what would I do? Where would I want to leave things? I will give everything back that I can to the hospice that gave me so much, not only in my name, but in Dad's name.
Who do I give my assets to?
Didn't realise you had a choice.
Give better end-of-life care to all. Get your free will guide today.
Find a pet-friendly Italian restaurant with outdoor seating nearby and text it to Luca.
Find it real quick. Send it to the click. Wow, the place is sick.
Get the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra with Galaxy AI for just $56.99 a month with club card prices. It pays to be connected. Search Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Sign up and start saving with Quidco today. Get cashback every time you shop on over 5,000 brands. It always pays to Quidco.
This baby bear is terrified, torn from her mother's paws at a tender age. They will force her to live alone in a tiny, filthy cage. like so many bears driven mad by loneliness, rubbing their wounds raw against the bars, suffering cruelly day after day, year after year, just for people's entertainment. Four Paws found little Potap crammed into a tiny, squalid cage. He'd been there for almost 9 years, lonely and isolated. There are so many more young bears who need your help. Please call 0800 038 0496 or text BEAR5 to 70800 to give £3 a month via your mobile phone. Every month, your £3 could help us free more bears. Help give bears the veterinary care they need and help them live happy, healthy lives in the freedom of our natural sanctuaries. Please call 0800 038 0496 or text BEAR5 to 70800 to give £3 a month via your mobile phone and help Four Paws free bears from agonising torture. Please, don't leave these bears to suffer for a single day more.
And that English and Hindi both have their uses and should be learned. To Telangana, YouTube journalists who are arrested for defamation and conspiracy in Telangana against the Chief Minister Revanth Reddy are released on bail by the court. The police plea for custody is rejected. The arrest had led to widespread criticism. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh meets with visiting US intelligence chief Tulsi Gabbard, flags Khalistani terror and seeks for justice during talks, asks for action to be taken. And in an exclusive interview to NDTV, Tulsi Gabbard says Trump and Prime Minister Modi share a very good relationship, have shared goals, and on the war in Ukraine, she says the US is working overtime for peace. Controversy in Maharashtra over Aurangzeb's grave, with Hindu groups threatening a Babri-like action. The Chief Minister says it's a protected monument, so he will have to protect it, says he won't allow any glorification of Aurangzeb. And social media influencer Ori in the news for the wrong reasons. He's booked by the Jammu and Kashmir police for allegedly consuming alcohol near the Vaishno Devi shrine after this video goes viral. All right, up first, let's get you all the latest on the news of two journalists who were arrested in Telangana on charges of conspiracy and defamation against Chief Minister Revanth Reddy, and a big blow to the Revanth Reddy government. The court has granted bail to the journalists Revati and Thanvi Yadav. They had been held for a post in which a person was seen abusing the Chief Minister. In fact, the court has refused police custody as well. That was a plea before them, and slammed the manner of the probe and also the manner of arrest.
The Nampally court today granted bail to the managing editor and reporter of Pulse News channel, Revati and Thanvi Yadav, who were arrested by the Telangana police on Wednesday, March 12. The allegation against them was that they had posted and amplified certain derogatory and abusive comments against Chief Minister Revanth Reddy. The police had gone very early morning to the homes of Revati and Thanvi Yadav, and they were picked up and taken away, and subsequently their arrest was announced. And the police had said that they believed that the video that was posted of an unidentified man who was seen abusing Revanth Reddy, that video had in fact been shot at the office of the BRS. That is what the police claimed. And they also said that they saw some kind of a political conspiracy in this. Of course, they had booked sections under the Information Act as well as multiple sections of the Bharat Nyaya Samhita, BNS 353, 352 as well as 111. The remand report itself had said that 111 of the BNS will not be applicable because there is no organized crime and there is no monetary transaction that they can see. And the remand report also issued a show cause notice, so to speak, to the investigating officer, asking about the manner of the arrest with ununiformed men going in to Revati's house, and they also questioned the irregularities in the intimation of the arrest to the family members. K.T. Ramarao, BRS leader, who spoke to NDTV and said that this reminded him of the emergency time, and he also mocked Rahul Gandhi, saying that he carries a copy of the constitution, but the Congress government here does not seem to adhere or protect the provisions of the constitution, especially with regard to journalists and the media freedom itself. K.T. Ramarao, in fact, earlier today visited Revati and Tanvi in jail, and then spoke about the kind of actions that are being taken by the Revanth Reddy government, and he claimed that they were undemocratic and intolerant of any kind of a criticism.
After the raging language row and delimitation issue, now the latest face-off between the BJP and DMK government in Tamil Nadu is over the alleged alcohol scam. Several BJP leaders were held today when they attempted a protest march against the TASMAC scam being probed by the Enforcement Directorate. The BJP claiming that Chief Minister Stalin should be named in the scam. The DMK, however, hit back, saying the case is politically motivated to target the state government.
The political clash in Tamil Nadu, moving from NEP, language row, delimitation to corruption, with BJP pushing the needle against Stalin's government. Senior BJP leaders, including Tamil Nadu Chief Annamalai, detained by police as the Saffron Party planned for a showdown in Chennai against the ruling DMK over the Enforcement Directorate's claim of 1,000 crore well-orchestrated scam by liquor bottle-making companies generating huge unaccounted cash.
They have detained us for 12 hours. Is it fair, I'm asking? I'm asking the Tamil Nadu people and the people of Bharat. Is it fair? They are not behaving as per the law, or the women should be treated like this.
The BJP had planned to march to the headquarters of the government liquor vending agency TASMAC, which ED says has indulged in corruption in sale and transport of liquor, grant of bar licenses, besides postings and transfers.
It's a very shameful attitude of the senior police officers of the state. The police people's idea, oh, let them sit till night 2 o'clock, only then they will learn a lesson. How dare they do a protest against DMK? In fact, DMK's elections in 2024 Lok Sabha was completely fought on alcohol money. They're using TASMAC even to fight 2026 assembly elections.
Today, Annamalai trained his guns on Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, clearly upping the ante. Till Friday, BJP's attack was confined to Stalin's minister V. Senthil Balaji in the TASMAC case.
நம்பர் 1 முதலமைச்சராக இருக்க வேண்டும் என அரவிந்த் கெஜ்ரிவால் அக்யூஸ் நம்பர் 1 இருந்திருக்கிறார். தமிழ்நாட்டிலும் இடி தன்னுடைய முழு அறிக்கையை தாக்கல் செய்து முடிக்கும் பொழுது முதலமைச்சர் அக்யூஸ் நம்பர் 1 இருப்பார் என்பது என்னுடைய ஆணித்தரமான நம்பிக்கை.
The ruling DMK denies allegations. On Friday, Excise Minister Senthil Balaji claimed the state government has no role in alleged irregularities by bottle-making companies in collusion with distilleries. He called it politically motivated as M.K. Stalin takes on the center over delimitation and NEP.
What is the act for which they are protesting? See, there is an ED investigation into many of the houses in Tamil Nadu, and they say that there is a loss of some 4,000 crores. So the police is taking action. The department, Enforcement Directorate is taking action. BJP wants to agitate. Are they not satisfied with the ED?
ED has alleged bottle-making companies in collusion with distilleries have generated huge unaccounted cash to the tune of 1,000 crore in a well-orchestrated manner, inflating expenses. TASMAC, it claims, manipulated bartenders, sold liquor at a higher price up to 30 rupees a bottle, besides corruption in postings and transfer of employees. The state government holds exclusive rights to wholesale and retail sale of Indian-made foreign liquor. The opposition has slammed the centre for deploying ED to take on its political opponents. While the ruling DMK has taken up the language and delimitation issues to take on the BJP ahead of elections, the Saffron Party hopes the liquor issue will have a larger connect with the masses. And politically, this issue could also cause jitters in the AIADMK, which was in power for a decade earlier and has snapped ties with the BJP. In Chennai with Suresh, Sam Daniel, Find the TV.
NDA partner and Andhra Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu struck a conciliatory note today on the raging language controversy, where he said no language should be hated and that English and Hindi both have their uses and should be learnt. He also added, for livelihood, we will learn any number of languages, but we won't forget the mother tongue.
Language so knowledge raadu. Knowledge వచ్చేది మాతృభాషలో చదువుకున్న వాళ్ళే ఈ రోజు ప్రపంచం మొత్తం ఎక్కడ రాణించినా మాతృభాషలో చదువుకున్న వాళ్ళే రాణించారు. చాలా ఈజీ టు లెర్న్. అలాంటిది ఈ రోజు ఈ ప్రభుత్వం కూడా నేను చాలా స్పష్టంగా మీ అందరికీ చెప్తున్నా, లాంగ్వేజ్ అనేది ద్వేషించడానికి కాదు. ఈరోజు మనం ఇక్కడ మాతృభాష తెలుగు, హిందీ జాతీయ భాష, ఇంటర్నేషనల్ లాంగ్వేజ్ ఇంగ్లీష్. మన వాళ్ళు ఈరోజు వేరే దేశాలకు పోతున్నారు, జపాన్కు పోతున్నారు, జర్మనీకి వెళ్తున్నారు, లేదంటే ఇంకా కొన్ని దేశాలకు వెళ్తున్నారు. అవసరమైతే ఆ లాంగ్వేజ్ కూడా ఇక్కడ పెట్టి నేర్చుకుంటే అక్కడ పోయినప్పుడు చాలా ఈజీ అవుతుంది. లైవ్లీహుడ్కి ఎన్ని లాంగ్వేజ్ కావాలని నేర్చుకుంటాం, మాతృభాషను మరిచిపోం. జాతీయ భాష నేర్చుకుంటే హిందీ కూడా ఢిల్లీకి పోయినప్పుడు ఫ్లూయెంట్గా వేరే వాళ్ళతో కూడా మాట్లాడే పరిస్థితికి వస్తుంది. కాబట్టి మీరందరూ గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది. లేనిపోని రాజకీయాలు చేయడం కాకుండా ఈరోజు మనందరం ఆలోచించుకొని భాష అనేది ఒక కమ్యూనికేషన్కు ఉపయోగపడేది కాబట్టి ఎన్ని భాషలు నేర్చుకోగలిగితే అంత మంచిది. ఆ విషయం కూడా మీరందరూ గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాల్సిందిగా నేను కోరుతున్నాను. నెక్స్ట్.
Like the Deputy Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Mr. Pawan Kalyan, who spoke up in support of the national education policy, Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu today spoke about the language issue, and he did not specifically mention the national education policy, but he said that it is good to be educated in the mother tongue, because studies have shown that learning in the mother tongue is always the best world over. Second is, he referred to Hindi as the national language, which of course it is not. It is an official language and not really a national language, but he said learning Hindi would help you communicate better when you go to Delhi. And the third part is, he said that English of course is more to be used for communication and more for livelihood as well. And he said that Andhra Pradesh is in favor of youngsters, students being taught many more languages which would bring them livelihood. And he pointed out that several youth from Andhra Pradesh are going to Japan, Germany and so on, and if those languages were to be taught in the schools or in the universities here, that would help in the livelihood options for these youth. So two things that he said that were political was that he said that there should be no politics over the language issue, and there should be no hatred that is instigated over the language issue itself.
All right, and more on the ongoing language row. Now, M&M chief actor Kamal Haasan has announced that his party is going to be running libraries in 3 southern districts that will be offering free online spoken English classes for school students from classes 6 to 12 as part of his party's skill development initiative engaging a US group. Kamal Haasan, remember, is also an ally of the DMK. All right, news now from Maharashtra after the VHP and Bajrang Dal threatened to demolish Aurangzeb's tomb, promising a Babri-like action. Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis said that since it is protected by the Archaeological Survey, unfortunately it is the state's duty to protect Aurangzeb's tomb. He added, though, that his government will not allow its glorification. Security has been tightened ever since these threats around the tomb in Kultabad, Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar, ever since this controversy broke out earlier. Remember, Chief Minister Fadnavis had backed the demand to remove the tomb from the state.
आज यातनं एक संदेश निश्चितपणे जातो आहे की या देशामध्ये महिमा मंडन होईल तर ते छत्रपती शिवरायांच्या मंदिराचं होईल, औरंगजेबाच्या कबरीचं होणार नाही. हे देखील या निमित्ताने लक्षात घेतलं पाहिजे. आज हे ठीक आहे, खरं म्हणजे त्या औरंग्याची कबर कशाला हवी, परंतु आपल्याला देखील कल्पना आहे की ASIने त्याला 50 वर्षापूर्वी संरक्षित म्हणून अशा प्रकारचं त्या ठिकाणी स्थळ म्हणून घोषित केलेलं आहे आणि म्हणून त्याचं संरक्षण देखील करायची जबाबदारी ही राज्य सरकारवर आणि केंद्र सरकारवर येऊन पडलेली आहे. काय दुर्दैव आहे, ज्या औरंग्याने आमच्या हजारो लोकांना मारलं त्याच्याच कबरीचं संरक्षण आम्हाला करावं लागतं. पण एक वचन तुम्हाला निश्चितपणे देतो, काहीही झालं तरी या महाराष्ट्रामध्ये औरंगजेबाच्या कबरीचं महिमा मंडन होऊ देणार नाही, त्याचं उदात्तीकरण होऊ देणार नाही. त्याचं उदात्तीकरण करण्याचा कोणी प्रयत्न केला तर तो प्रयत्न त्याच ठिकाणी चिरडून टाकण्याचं काम या आम्ही केल्याशिवाय राहणार नाही. हे वचन छत्रपती शिवरायांच्या या मंदिराच्या समोर आपल्या सर्वांना मी देतो.
All right, with that time for us to slip into a short break. Coming up on the other side, find out why social media influencer Ori is wanted by the Jammu and Kashmir police.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
This is Harvard India Conference. We talk about what India will be going forward. The fact that you chose to call your company Bharat, the fact that you chose to come back at a time when Indian healthcare and biotechnology industry was not where it is right now. The fact that starting a company wasn't so easy in India. And the fact that the STEM industry, the scientific R&D industry in India was not where it was almost 30 years back. What got you here? Because as I said, a conversation with a woman entrepreneur should start with about what it is like to be a woman entrepreneur in India.
It's this journey for us, for me, because I have to mention to you that all the introduction that was made with all humility, I would have to share it along with my executive chairman, Dr. Krishna Eller, with whom I traveled this journey for the last 40 years. And it was way back in 1986 that both of us, with our 2-year-old daughter, moved to the United States. And then came a turning point or kind of a thought process in me that I was asking Krishna this question every now and then. What do we do to India? Because we left the country in 86 and it was almost 97, 98 by then. I said, Krishna, is this why we came to the United States? Or is there a larger meaning behind this? So I said, I'm ready to go back when you are ready to follow me. So that's how it all began.
What made you name your company Bharat?
Bharat was coined by me because I did all the paperwork. I said my background was in economics. So all that helped. So I used to do all the paperwork, filling all the forms to the banks and the government offices and everything. I mean, everything is paperwork ultimately. Even today, if you still have to type it on your systems. I called it Bharat because I said, in my own thought process, I said, I belong to India. I grew up in India. I took all my initial years of growing up, my education, my children, my parents, the upbringing, the value systems, until college that I was there. I said, I could not think of a better name because I know Bharat stands for many, many, many more things glorious in the past as well. So I said, it cannot be called anything else but Bharat.
Welcome back. India urged the United States to act against banned Khalistani terror group Seeks for Justice, which operates from American soil, and its founder, US-based lawyer Gurpatwant Singh Panun. The issue was raised during the meeting between Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and visiting US intelligence chief Tulsi Gabbard. Nikunj with the details.
We have been raising the issue of the threat emanating from SFJ for quite some time now, but my sense is that sensing that this is the first and the most forceful opportunity with a new administration that is just coming into the system and just settling in the transition, India has made its point very, very forcefully in today's meeting. And the top of that messaging was that one has to see, the administrations have to see, the governments both in Canada and in the United States of America have to see SFJ as a complete prop of the inter-services intelligence of Pakistan. The fact remains that SFJ tries to distinguish itself in terms of raising issues like civil rights and liberties, but India has said that it is completely financed, funded, backed, helped in propagating its messaging from the ISI, and therefore they are also responsible for carrying out some direct violent activities on Indian soil, and therefore they have also sought a ban. But my sense is that about the ban, which is under SFJ, is also under a ban, as you would know, under UAPA from the Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. But apart from the ban, today for the first time we have raised the issue of security of our diplomats under the Geneva Convention, which binds and which enjoins on a host government that all the diplomatic complexes and diplomatic personnel must be provided appropriate levels of security, and they should not be under any set of circumstance operate under a shadow of terror or shadow of any kind of threat. So that point has been quite forcefully raised by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh in today's meetings.
And earlier, Tulsi Gabbard also spoke to my colleague Vishnu Shom and talked about the Ukraine war and India-US tie. She spoke about the relationship between President Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. She said they enjoy a good relationship. Yesterday, remember, she joined intelligence and security officials from about 20 countries for a conclave chaired by National Security Advisor Ajit Doval in Delhi.
Ties between our two countries, the United States and India, go very, very far back. And so what we're continuing to see is a strengthening of that partnership and recognizing that the mutual interests of both of our countries are centered around peace, prosperity, freedom, and security. So now as we see a new administration coming in with President Trump's leadership in the United States, of course, Prime Minister Modi's long-standing leadership here in India, we have two leaders of our two great countries who are very good friends and who are very focused on how we can strengthen those shared objectives and those shared interests. Very shortly after he was inaugurated back into office for a second term, where they really set the tone and set the vision for where a stronger U.S.-India partnership and friendship can lead to. And so my visit here is really predicated on the work that has already been done, and I've been having great conversations with my counterparts here in the Indian government. I just met with the Minister of Defense a few minutes ago, and looking forward to visiting with Prime Minister Modi here later today.
New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon is on a visit to India, which has resulted in major agreements aimed at strengthening bilateral ties. Both nations announced the launch of negotiations for a free trade agreement, a new arrangement also to facilitate the mobility of professionals and skilled workers. Amid changing geopolitical situation and threats of tariff by the US, the West is now looking for more reliable trade partner in India.
India's FTA push amid Trump's tariff battle. India-Kiwi free trade negotiations are the latest to resume. India and New Zealand have restarted the talks a decade after negotiations fell apart, as Prime Minister Christopher Luxon began his 5-day tour of Delhi. Prime Minister Luxon met Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday. Apart from the resumption of FTA talks, 3 MOUs were exchanged in the fields of defense, sports and horticulture.
दोनों देशों के बीच एक परस्पर लाभकारी फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट पर नेगोशिएशंस शुरू करने का निर्णय लिया गया है। इससे आपसी व्यापार और निवेश के पोटेंशियल को बढ़ावा मिलेगा। डेयरी, फूड प्रोसेसिंग और फार्मा जैसे क्षेत्रों में आपसी सहयोग और निवेश को प्रोत्साहित किया जाएगा.
Our two-way trade today stands at around $3 billion New Zealand dollars a year, but there is huge potential to grow, and we will launch immediately comprehensive free trade agreement negotiations, making sure that we work towards a balanced, ambitious, and comprehensive agreement.
Thank you.
New Zealand and India are also working on an agreement to ease entry of skilled labour as well as easing immigration.
I hope that our meeting has left Prime Minister Modi in no doubt about the profound depth of New Zealand's commitment to building a deep, broad-based and enduring relationship with the great nation of India. By broad-based, I mean that New Zealand is committed to doing more with India across a wide range of areas: defence and security, trade and economics, people-to-people ties, education, tourism, sports and culture.
Earlier in March, External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar visited UK and Ireland to strengthen diplomatic and trade ties. In Ireland, a joint economic commission to increase our trade investment and technology linkages was agreed upon. In February, India and the UK too resumed their FTA talks. Union Minister Piyush Goyal expects it to be a win-win situation for both countries.
आगे चल के भारत और यूनाइटेड किंगडम के बीच हमारे संबंध, हमारे व्यापार के संभावनाओं को हम बड़े रूप में आगे लेके जा सकते हैं.
Amid the changing geopolitical situation and threats of tariffs by the US, the West is now looking for a more reliable trade partner in India. First week of March saw Belgian economic mission led by Princess Astrid and accompanied with over 350 business and industry leaders from Belgium arrive in India. EU Commission President was also in India in February with all 12 EU commissioners. Von der Leyen confirmed that an FTA between India and the EU will be formalized by the end of this year.
Finalize our free trade agreement before the end of the year. We're expecting a lot of our trade negotiations. We told them they should surprise us.
Meanwhile, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal visited the US on the Doubling Trade by 2030 mission. Two significant wars in Europe and the Middle East have not only amplified geopolitical tensions but also destabilized global energy supplies and food security. Post-COVID-19, India under Prime Minister Modi's leadership has emerged as the choice of many over China, offering a much-needed stability. With Mohammad Ghazali, Bureau Report, NDTV.
And Prime Minister Modi and the New Zealand Prime Minister Luxon visited Gurudwara Rakabganj in Delhi. There you can see that visit by both the leaders, and Luxon is now the chief guest and keynote speaker at the Raisina Dialogue, which began today evening, where he highlighted the long-standing relationship between Indians and New Zealanders. In other news, China has welcomed Prime Minister Modi's recent remarks on India-China ties, saying that dialogue rather than discord should guide bilateral relations. Those remarks were made during a podcast. The Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning highlighted this at a press briefing in Beijing, saying China noted Prime Minister Modi's recent positive statement on China-India relations and appreciated, as she described the relationship between the two countries as a cooperative dance between the elephant and the dragon, asserting that mutual success is the only choice for both sides. Social media influencer Ori has found himself in the news for all the wrong reasons. The Jammu and Kashmir police have in fact filed an FIR against him and 7 other people for allegedly consuming alcohol in a hotel at Katra at the base of the Mata Vaishno Devi shrine. The FIR against Ori and others was filed after this video on your screens here, which purportedly shows liquor being consumed by the group inside a hotel. This was in a restricted area. According to the police, the accused have been booked for violation of rules at a religious place and hurting sentiments. NASA confirms that Sunita Williams' Earth returned, with curiosity building over the return of the pair of US astronauts who've been stuck for more than 9 months on the International Space Station. NASA confirmed that the duo will be returning to Earth on Tuesday, that's tomorrow, on March 18th Eastern Time. It will be around 3:27 a.m. India time. Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore will be transported home aboard a SpaceX Crew Dragon craft. Well, that's it from me for the moment. Thanks so much for watching. It's over now. To my colleague Maria for the last word and more on the Aurangzeb controversy in Maharashtra.
That's right. I'm taking the viewers straight to Maharashtra. And what really is brewing there is essential and something very, very fascinating. I mean, a character, or should I say a Mughal emperor of 17th century has made a comeback. Hello everyone, this is The Last Word and I'm Maria Shakir. Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb has made a comeback in Maharashtra politics, or should I say it is his tomb which has made this comeback. Heavy security has been deployed at